What's up, Otakus? It's another week gone by. Happy Friday. Um, First Friday of the new year. We're just pretty much a day in to the new year. And hope everybody, you know, spent some quality time. Uh, I think when we uh, turn over to the new year, it's always a time for reflection on the past year and also just looking ahead to the year ahead. And I went over kind of what I'm targeting in 2026. Uh, and, there's a lot of people right now. I don't know. It just seems like people are catering to a channel, and everybody has their own little kind of bubble, I guess. There's some people who kind of jump on with other YouTubers and they discuss comic books and they do like a forum type thing, which is cool. I've done it before too. And then there are other people who kind of just put out what they put out, talk about what they want to talk about and kind of do their own thing. Uh, that's definitely, I think, more of where I'm at. Um, I definitely don't really, I mean, I'll watch other channels and definitely there are channels that I will from time to time check in and see what's going on. But for the most part, there's not any one channel that I'm really dedicated to focusing on and watching outside of a handful. And those of you who um, kind of engage with me know who you are in terms of who I follow and who I regularly check in with. But outside of that, it's I just don't get a lot of I don't know that a lot of collectors just kind of rub me the wrong way. And um, part of it, I think, comes from the showmanship. They're just kind of on there. I don't know what the agenda is. It seems like they're just trying to get people to follow them, like them, and subscribe to them, which is fine. That's kind of the whole point of this, right? Just to like have an audience of people to engage with. But it just feels like it's more like, oh, I'm here to sell comic books. I'm here to like influence you on like what to buy and do all this. And it just seems the channels that bug me the most are the ones that say they're like posers, right? They act like they um, have been collecting a long time or doing things in the hobby for a long time. Um, and you can just tell like they haven't, right? Um, and it's the ones that are like kind of opportunistic. They just kind of jump on whatever's trending and then like, oh, I'm a fan of this now or I'm a fan of that now. And it's got less to do with comic books than and more to do with like I think um, kind of the popularity of the movies, and what's trending in with current releases. I don't know. It just seems very like you can't really tell who's behind the content, right? It could be like somebody from the movie just pumping money into this channel saying, hey, you got to talk about this or that, versus like somebody from a publishing company saying, hey, you got to talk about these comics and, review these books. And it just feels like everything is connected to like um, ad money. I don't know if that makes sense. It's either ad money that's driving some of the content, it's a person's own small business, right? Like you're trying to sell books or you're trying to like promote yourself to either press books, sell books, or, sell on behalf of somebody, right? But you see a lot of these resellers, and I'm not talking about specifically comic book sellers who come on, create content, talk about comic books. Um, but, you know, they're sitting there acting like they're collectors when they're really um, there to sell books, right? So, um, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like if you're a seller and you want to act like you're some advocate for the hobby and collecting and all that, that's fine. And I think there's a special category for that, right? But it bugs me when when it's like, if you're like a reseller, if you're a seller of comic books, you're not really a collector at that point. So to be like saying you're a collector and a seller, it just seems um, like you're not a true collector, right? True collectors are just like focused on collecting. They're like people like me, right? Real people like me with jobs and things to do. And this is a hobby. And so when I pick up a book, I'm not looking to flip it. I'm looking to keep it. And hence, I don't really talk about things outside of the stuff I'm picking up and interested in. Um, but yeah, there's some channels out there. They build this huge like audience saying they collect this sort of thing and like they're focused on collecting this thing, and then they pivot and say, no, I was really this kind of collector. And that kind of stuff bugs me because it's like you're this when it's popular to collect that. And then when that falls out of favor and the next flavor of the month comes in, then you suddenly jump ship and now you're a collector of that. Um, it just like, you just see a lot of that on YouTube, right? And I guess I'm guilty of it a little bit, because I'm definitely more Superman focused now than I've ever been. Um, but like I said, I've always been a diehard Superman collector and lover of Superman collectibles. Um, right when I mean, ever since I was a little kid, um, it just wasn't necessarily focused on comic books all the time, but it was more of like I was just a kid who was watching the cartoons, playing with the toys, you know, and eventually reading the comic books. But yeah, when I got back into comic book collecting, and if recently, my focus did shift to Superman along with other things. And then as it got going, I always had Superman as like a focus of my collection, but with the movie and everything, it's really kind of just come to the forefront. And that's fine. I think a lot of collectors right now want to collect Superman, whether you haven't in the past and you're doing it now, that's fine. Or whether you have in the past and you're still doing it and more intensely probably now than before. Uh, that's even better, right? Um, so, being a Superman collector is fun. And the more the merrier. And I'm happy to see everybody kind of jumping on the Superman bandwagon, but it is a bandwagon, right? It is a bandwagon. So please recognize that. Like if you prior to the movie had no content related to Superman, didn't mention Superman in any of your videos, and now you're suddenly like, oh, I love Superman and doing all this. Like that's yeah, I mean that's just hopping on the bandwagon. I mean, that's the very definition of it, right? It's like if you weren't devoted to it to begin with, then well, again, that enough of the ranting. It just bugs me when like people try to make themselves out to be this like Superman collector. You see a lot of it now, and it's like you go back to their videos and you look past a certain point, they have absolutely zero like Superman content. You know, it's just like, oh, he's the flavor of the month, so we got to wear the shirt, we got to wear the T-shirt, we got to talk about him. I got to get some, you know, oh look, this is a Golden Age book I picked up, or this is, you know, like the Superman book I had in my collection for forever. It's just a little ridiculous how fake people can be, and that's my rant. All right. Well, you're in for a treat because we are going to cover uh, a big portion of the '90s Superman stuff in my collection, and specifically the death, reign, and return Superman. Um, I've been kind of really obsessed with this topic as of late. And as you know, in the beginning of 2026, I began reading The Death, Reign, and Return. In fact, I'm going to read the entire series of books. It's a lot of books. It covers a pretty broad period from like 1992 to 94, almost a 2 year period, almost to 1995, so almost a 3 year period, I'm going to say. But it's been like a 2.5 year period where it's really sort of a cross DC title event. And I've been arguing, and this is something, you know, a lot of people may find disagreeable or controversial, but in one of my videos, I outline how, or I basically argue for the fact that Superman is the most read comic book at the time of its release, not subsequent, right? Because the older books have obviously more years for people to kind of read and reread and gain sort of a readership. I'm talking about at the time of its release, how many people bought and read the book, right? It's really a time capsule of the readership, right? Well, as it was coming out, how many people actually bought and read the book? And then, you know, as time goes on, more and more people are gonna maybe buy and read the book with subsequent, you know, editions and printings and whatnot. And my argument is, given the sales data of books like Adventure Comics, Adventures of Superman number 500, and The Death of Superman, we're talking like, you know, 3 million copies, and the subsequent Adventures of Superman 500, 4 million, some million copies. While these were collectibles, they were kind of one of those like one per customer type books. So if you really wanted like to get multiple copies of this book, you had to kind of like drive around town and do your due diligence, because at the time the demand was so strong. You're talking about like just everybody wanted to read this book because they were curious. Oh, how are they going to kill Superman? And it had built up to such a crescendo with the fight, right? The fight starts off just Doomsday kind of escaping, and then just taking the Justice League out, and then starting to fight Superman, and it's just ongoing. They're pummeling each other. They're slowly, from Ohio, they're making their way to Metropolis, which is New York City, right? And it just kind of crescendos across different titles and takes its own life form leading up to the main event, Superman 75. So I kind of want to just, because we're going to be reading the book, I want to just spend this Friday session kind of showing off what's in my collection. And you'll notice I have a lot of holes. I thought I had, I still do have like forever to pick up these books. These books are 90s books, they're dollar bin or, like 25-cent, 50-cent bin bought fodder. Although I think now with the resurgence of Superman, you're going to probably see like people trying to sell these books for more than they should be sold to take advantage. Please don't be taken advantage of these books. If you're going to pay for them, at least keep them in their context. These should just be sold at bought as dollar books for the most part. Yeah, don't pay more than $1 for most of these books. Some of them, yeah, maybe will carry a little bit more value than $1, but for the most part, they're mass printings of these books, so there's no scarcity whatsoever. So if you're going to pay, don't pay more than at least $10, right? Pay $1 if you can, but if it ends up someone asking like $10 for something and you really want it, I guess that's as high as you should go for any of these books in the series, unless it's some of the like the platinum editions and whatnot. Those are obviously a little bit more scarce, but may carry a higher value. But for the most part, don't get carried away. This is really an ode, a shout out to old school collectors. And by old school, I'm obviously there are older school collectors. What's up, Ron? Sorry, man. I kind of jumped on late, but you're here now. We can begin. So this is dedicated to the Rons, the fanboys, the trying to think of some of the old school like the people who were collecting in the 90s, right? If you were part of the collecting boom, meaning you got into comic books right around the late 80s, early 90s, or you've been in comic books and you saw it through to the mid 90s, right? Or even beyond, right? These are like, I really want to focus though on the 90s collector, right? Yeah, Ron, you're old school, but you collected through the 90s. Well, no, you said you didn't read the 90s Superman. Okay, so yeah, I think this is more of an ode to the people who actually maybe collected in the 90s. And we're talking about a big umbrella because the comic boom brought in so many people into the hobby. It really transformed the market because now rather than people picking up comic books at their supermarket off the the magazine rack, the newsstand, or their local I don't know, that newsstand, like in New York City they had like magazines and comic books and all that stuff kind of in the racks. People were now exclusively getting them bagged and boarded, as a new release from a pull list, right? You went to your LCS, it was there, it was bagged and boarded for you. All you had to do was pick it up, go home, read it, put it in your bag and board, and that was part of your collection. So it really changed the game, really, right? And how people bought their comic books, how they collected, and the messaging around the hobby had changed as well. You had things like Wizard Comics coming out with price guides, and you had like a real time sort of barometer of, oh, my comic book is worth $5, right? When you bought it for maybe 99 cents, it was already a $5 book. And obviously, the older back issues also had carried price tags with them. You started understanding through these uh, price guides what the keys are, why certain books are worth more than others, why there's certain demand for certain books than others based on like first appearances, key aspects of the story. So really, the '80s and the '90s kind of formed the hobby. Obviously, old school collectors were had a good understanding of this because they were building it, right? They were kind of creating the market and the rules of the game, right? Working with the publishers kind of as like seller and buyer to know like these are the books that retain value and these are the things you should kind of put out, and it was sort of a good understanding, and then it evolved into like price guides, shows, book signings, and all that in the '90s. And so the current hobby right now really owes its identity to this comic boom period when people were treating these books like investments and, you know, kind of putting a lot of money into the hobby, buying books and collecting them and going after, rarer books or bigger keys and all that. So it's only grown and evolved, but it really kind of peaked in the '90s. So this is just all context, but if you were a collector during this period, you know what I'm talking about. It's firsthand information for you how significant uh, the death of Superman was, and why when I say it's the most read comic book run probably of all time, and I'm talking about, like I said, at the time of its release, okay, not subsequent audiences. But if you talk about like, okay, when Byrne and Claremont put out X-Men during the, post giant size X-Men 1, where you had Claremont join the title and you have these new stories with Wolverine and the new team, right? Like if you measure that audience of collectors who are buying those books and reading those books, it brought a lot of people into the X-Men fold, people who were already maybe into comic books and reading, but that audience size was still minuscule compared to what the hobby and the market had grown to by the mid '90s, right? So at the time of a big run like that, where a lot of people were reading it, it would pale in comparison to the amount of people who would have been interested in the Superman books. So, fast forward to the mid '90s, you have pretty much the largest number of people reading and buying comic books. And suddenly you get this big event around the biggest character in comics, to be honest. He's the oldest, he's the strongest, he's the handsomest, he's the bravest, the most just. I mean, like all the superlatives, and you kill him off in this huge build-up event. And so I think it just goes to reason, even if you're not that into Superman at the time, you're going to pick up a book and at least find out what's the fuss about, because it was a big fuss. It was a lot of people uh, are Superman fans. Were Superman fans, and at this announcement, a lot of the Superman fans were kind of like, "What's going on? Why are you killing off the best character in comic books. And that's the kind of reaction I had initially. I'm like, oh man, why are they doing this? And I had my kind of suspicions, but ultimately I had kind of faith that they wouldn't keep him killed. And obviously, curiosity takes the better of us. So I did want to know what's going on. Yeah, we read a lot of the comic books from this story arc, um, and man, was it good! It wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna kill him off with like a bad story or just like kind of shoddy like planning. No, they got some of the best creators in the game, some of the best artists, writers, editors to really come together and say, okay, this is it. This is like we're really killing off um, the childhood hero of so many people who read comic books throughout the years, right? And and it was a very thoughtful way that they were bringing this entire thing to life. And again, as we read through, you're going to see that. But today, again, like I said, this is just sort of a more light, casual walk down memory lane. My ode to the 90s collectors, the collectors of this period, the old G's, the old school collectors. Call yourself a comic boomer, right? I'm a comic boomer. I was collecting during the comic boom. That's a badge of pride, in my opinion. Um, yes, you bought a lot of worthless books, but you're part of a very special era. So this is out going out to the comic boomers there as we get through. All right, let's get into it. So I just literally pulled out all the comic books that cover the death, reign, and return of Superman. Now, there are a lot of holes in my collection, so by no means do I have all the books. Talk to my boy Fanboy. He has the entire collection with all the variants. So he is a true collector, and I don't throw that term around lightly, but he's a true one, right? Um, that is a collecting goal, tried and true to have met. And I got to bow down to my senpai, my Superman senpai, man. It's you just can't uh, outdo that kind of dedication. But yeah, we get started here on really the sort of first um, introduction, real introduction to Doomsday, Superman, the Man of Steel, number 18. This is our copy here. I'd say it's a VF copy here. High grade. Looks good. Clean. I forget what I picked this up for, but might have been like, it was like maybe 11, like $10 or so, something like that. Maybe not even like $8 or something. I have to go and watch my videos again because I kind of pick all this stuff up and cover it when I do. So I can go back and know exactly how much I paid for it because I'm very transparent like that. I let you know what I paid for when I pick these books up. So I have a living record of it on my channel. We also have Adventures of Superman 497. This one I picked up recently. I think this was in 2025. And yeah, just a great Superman kind of just running into Doomsday, kind of tripping him up. But this battle just gets more intense. And it's kind of what you have here in the initial stages of the battle, which is what these issues outline. And these battle panels, they get kind of, it's less dialogue and more just like action panels. I mean, you'll have people kind of like commenting on the side, kind of like, oh, what's going on? Like, but like, and Superman has thoughts as well. Like he's like thinking, man, how am I going to beat this guy? And all those things. But it kind of again, the crescendo builds as the fighting gets more intense and it gets closer to Metropolis, and it just becomes really like a silent issue in the sense that like Superman can't. He's so focused he can't even think. He's just reacting, and it just literally becomes like panels at that point where just action panels like this one here. Really beautiful stuff. Yep, and then this is the issue where they get to Metropolis, and we see more of as the battle ensues. They're kind of ripping each other's clothes off, and you know, uh, cutting each other up, and like, well, actually, Doomsday, his while his costume gets busted up, it seems like he's unfazed. In fact, there's very little damage. Superman's doing all this, uh, hitting him with everything he's got, and Doomsday just seems to like not get phased. So that's the really kind of frightening thing. It's like, man, this thing's unstoppable, and it's not looking good for Superman. Superman's getting fatigued and all that, and it's kind of very concerning as it builds up, right? Um, and there's a lot of, as you're reading this, there's a lot of kind of foreshadowing of like, oh, this is not going to end well. There's a lot of foreshadowing and like, all right, because this is one of the things, like they announced Superman is going to die. So it wasn't a matter question of like, oh, is he going to die? It's like, how is he going to die? And that's kind of what you kind of know, even though they're foreshadowing it, you kind of already know the outcome. And so at this point, it's just like, oh man, this battle's getting pretty intense, and you kind of come to learn and understand, okay, this is how he's going to die. He's going to die just battling this thing and losing. So yeah, Action Comics 684 there. Building to a crescendo. There you go. You see Superman's bloodied. Doomsday just, again, not really phased there. So kind of just, again, they're really protracting what seems to be inevitable. And then we get to the actual kind of the thing they told us would happen, and we finally get to the big event. And now the Death of Superman issue was it was an event. It was one of those things like you had to have it, right? You had to read it, go get like a reader's copy and get like a copy for your collection. And the glorious thing is DC knew that you were going to probably pick up a collector's copy, or like you could do it either way. You could either have this as your collector's copy, right? Or this as your reader's copy. But I think most collectors wanted the poly bag as the collector's edition, and this is the reader's. Whatever you decide to go with. This was kind of more accessible as a read. This was kind of like you had to open the bag, so you didn't want to open the bag, and it had just this cool, like, Kryptonian symbol of hope bleeding, right? The hope is dying. And then again, you have this cape, flag at half mast and all that. Really intense, good stuff. So you went out to get this. And, again, there were copies that sold on the newsstand, but for the most part, if you want to pick up a nice high grade copy of this, You were waiting in line like a lot of other kids or people to get your copy. And again, the demand was so strong when this book was released. It You had lines, and so a lot of shops, in order to ensure the equal distribution, they had like a one copy per customer kind of policy. So yeah, you had to wait in line, get your one copy, and that was it. Um, and then, of course, that quickly drew up, drove up the prices of these books. Right? You had people just turning around and like, okay, who wants to buy this for $25? Who wants to buy this for $50? And soon you had, you know, kind of like the FOMO you're seeing with like Absolute and all this. And this is a cyclical thing. This is how people sell comic books, and sellers get more for a book than they probably should, um, based off the FOMO, the fear of missing out. And yeah, when you have kind of limited copies of something that's released or launched, and you don't have your copy yet, that's when you kind of pay up to someone who does have it. So that's kind of the scenario you're looking at even in the mid 90s. Of course, with the subsequent printings, I have got my third printing here. It became a situation where, oh, it sold out. All right, we're going to do a second printing. Oh, the second printing sold out. We're going to do a third printing. And, you know, for most of 1993, which is when this book came out, January 93, right? For most of 93, you had just people buying the book and it's selling out for almost an entire year. Just the people wanting to buy Superman 75 as a collector's item. So, yeah, a lot of people bought it. A lot of people read it. Hence, this is arguably the most read comic book run of all time. It was at the peak of the comic boom. It sold millions and millions of copies. Even to this day, through trade paperbacks and collected editions, people read The Death, the Reign, and the Return of Superman through collected editions. So you have a lot of people, even today, today's collector, today's reader, can pick up something and get right into what this story is all about. So that's a great thing. It's just garnered a huge readership and following of the year. I don't know any collector who doesn't know about the death of Superman, right? You all know about it. You all know about Doomsday. It was just such a kind of like, you know, collective moment. It was a collective moment. It's like everybody in the hobby was touched by this. So in terms of its impact and footprint on the history of comic books, or even this era, right? I kind of put out there like which had the biggest footprint: X-Men Volume 2, Number 1, or Superman 75. And without a doubt, it's Superman 75, because the PR this book got, the fact that it was on the nightly news. You had like Tom Brokaw and the national news coverage of this event. Then you had the subsequent, not only the news that they were killing off Superman, you had the subsequent frenzy by collectors to get this book, and it drove the price up. And like now people were saying, oh man, they killed Superman, and it also is like this really high valued investment collectible, right? So it was just kind of, yeah, people don't really understand like how big this book was, and how big the event was, and how many collectors were, how they were in the thick of it. So my comic boomer, shout out to you guys. You guys remember you guys will have probably purchased this book, read the book, have it in your collection, your original copyright in your collection. And so, yeah, that's the sign of a true boomer. So kudos to you guys. But yeah, just showing off what I got here. I just picked this one up for $9 here. It's a poly bag signed on the poly bag. That's good stuff right there, 90s stuff. That's a beautiful addition to the collection this year. Love that, man. That's a flex right there. So, all right, so they kill him off, and we get the funeral for a friend. So he's really gone. He's really gone. And as we get into this sort of period of funeral for a friend, and it's kind of like a pause, right? It's like, well, okay, you have this huge battle, you have this huge uh, crescendo, uh, and then it's kind of one of those situations where Superman gives his last, like so in the final battle, it's like he's wearing Doomsday down, and he harnesses all his like strength to just wail on Doomsday, and Doomsday ultimately starts to like kind of weaken and crack, and Superman's also weakening and cracking, but he's just like, I can't let him win. And with all their kind of collective might, they kind of land like finishing blows on each other, right? It's one of those like kung fu movies where they both kind of punch each other and kill each other with the last breath and strength. And that's how Superman dies. He just dies in Lois's arms, but kills Doomsday in the process. And of course, there's a period of mourning here with Funeral for a Friend. And again, it's sort of the collective. It's our way to process the loss of this monumental character, right? Because by this time, Superman's, almost like 60 years old, right? He's been in comic books, been a part of our lives for more than half a century. And yeah, it's sort of a moment you kind of, it really was like a funeral in the sense that you were kind of getting the reactions of the people closest to Superman at this time, and sort of the larger DC universe who were touched by Superman. So you just had just the entire DC universe reacting and talking about how they were personally inspired or touched by Superman, right? It was just this outpouring of love and emotion for this hero who sacrificed himself to save humanity and the earth. And so, yeah, these are more issues from the funeral. And yeah, so it was kind of like a pause. It was kind of like, okay, before we get to like post-death stuff, like, because we gotta like move on, right? Like he's dead. This is kind of a mourning period where you just get a kind of a pause, and the action is just kind of slower. It's definitely more of a dramatic story. There's no like, hidden villain or anything like running around that Superman's gone. No, it's just like a kind of a crossover, like uh, DC event where every single character, every single issue is touched by this loss, and it's being addressed. It's being addressed in its comic book context, right? So what I'm trying to say is it's a DC wide reaction. So everybody's pausing, everybody's taking their time to acknowledge and process the loss. And it was around this sort of pause period that Wizard just went like, you know what, we got to do a Superman tribute edition. This came out in April of 1993, and we're going to flip through it because that's what I do. This is, again, I wouldn't do an ode to the comic boomers. It wouldn't be a proper ode or shout out or, kind of ritual to you guys if I didn't walk you through a collectible like this. And so hopefully you guys have this in your collection. If not, you should go and get it because it's absolute freaking thunder fire here. First off, $4.95 was a big book in 93. This came out in April of 93. So $4.95 for a Wizard book was like as much as you paid for a comic book, really. Or I should say, as much as you could pay for a comic book. You're talking about like books were still what, $1.50 during this time. $1.95 over at was Image, but DC kept it real. DC was like still $1.25. Marvel books are around maybe $1.50, $1.95 or whatever. But to pay $4.95 for essentially like a magazine was even high for Wizard standards. But there's a lot to kind of collect in this book. So you get this sort of gatefold cover here. This is like a foily edition. You can see the shimmering there. Really nice. So your $5 is going a long way to bring you some quality stuff. And then you get ads like this, right? Adventures of Superman 500. You can kill the man, but his spirit lives on. What the hell does that mean? Okay, you got me intrigued. What's going on here? And then, yeah. Boom. You get the tribute edition. So it's like, that's a Superman fan's kind of wet dream here with the tribute stuff. You get some great John Byrne Volume 2 Superman there. This is what, from the Man of Steel, right? Man of Steel #1, actually, not Volume 2 Superman. That pops up at Man of Steel #1, the last panel of issue 1. So you get stuff like that. You get this guy here. He obviously played Superman back in the day. Like, well, he's like, I think the first, before the George Reeves Superman or something, or maybe he's after the George Reeves Superman, but no one remembers him. Stuff like that. So we're just gonna flip through because I know you Superman fans are geeking out right now, hopefully. So here we go, yeah. My Life with Superman by Kurt Swan. Who doesn't want to read that, right? Kurt Swan is literally the father. I think he has the most attributed works, or he's the most attributed Superman creator, right? He's the most acclaimed artist of Superman. He's drawn more Superman comics than anybody on the history of the earth. So here's a little article by him why his life was Superman, drawing Superman, right? So that's good stuff right there. I mean, what a long, strange journey it's been. Let's reminisce about the greatest hero of them all. Yes, yes, okay, the greatest hero of them all. Don't forget that. Got a lot of people in the comic book community who love comic books, and their favorite comic book character is maybe like Plastic Man or some rubber dog shit man or something like that. But it really is Superman, okay? And don't forget that. Like, if you don't have to like Superman, but don't forget who the greatest hero of them all is. That's undebatable right there. You can collect the second greatest hero of them all, but acknowledge who the greatest is. It's without a doubt this dude right here, not this guy. This dude. Hopefully you know the difference. Yeah, we got some great crypto, some art stuff. I'm not reading this. If you want to read it, get this edition here. For those who came in late, yes, a look at Superman in his world since 1986. This is volume 2, the Byrne reintroduction of the modern story. I've been saying how Byrne needs more credit, right? Byrne needs to get more credit for Superman because that's really his claim to fame. I don't think X-Men is. People talk about Byrne like X-Men was the only thing he did. No, he gave us Superman who he is, built the character as he is today. So those are two of the biggest things to happen in comic books. So give Byrne his due. What's this? Jay Lee? That's pretty cool. Good old Wizard with their ads. So yes, this is just covering volume 2 of Superman and the subsequent. Through the years, we love stuff like this, right? We get little by little account of the Superman heavy hitters. There you go. You got Joe Shuster, Wayne Boring, Kurt Swan, Kurt Schaffenberger, Neil Adams, Jack Kirby? I don't think so. Gil Kane, that's questionable as well. Jose Luis Garcia Lopez, they better mention my boy. Better mention my boy. No, they don't. All right. Yeah, they leave Ross Andrew out. That's a crying shame. But you get Jerry Ordway, Kerry Gamble, John Byrne, George Perez, John Bogdanove, Dan Jurgens, Tom Grummett, Walt Simonson. Yes, people forget Walt Simonson did work on Superman. And some of a preview of what's to come here. The Men of Steel, what's going on here? Yes. So they kind of give you a preview here. 4 guys that claim to be Superman. This is what's coming, right? So they're kind of laying out. And then, of course, this creates more FOMO around, okay, well, I got to get this issue now, which is Adventures of Superman 500. So it's coming. We got Street Fighter there as well. Everybody remembers that book. What? Terminator Superman? Get the F out of here. Yes. Returning as a cyborg with over 50% of his body replaced by alien machinery, this Superman looks more like the Terminator than Superman. So you're getting... There you go. John Henry Steele. There you go. That's good stuff right there. More terrifying cyborg Superman. 90s goodness. Okay, I gotta admit, I was buying this stuff. It's like Wizard had me. I was spending my money on stuff like Cyberforce, and so that's why I don't have all the Superman issues, because I was buying other stuff. there you go. Some more articles there about the Super Monkey stuff. All right. What is this? A mailbag? Superman is a pop icon, of course. Yes. Oh, there we go. Christopher Reeve. Got the old 41 Paramount Pictures cartoons, and then Kirk Allen. This is like the old school Superman before the TV stuff. There's George Reeves. All this stuff, all this history. And then, of course, yes, Warner Brothers presents a Richard Donner film. And you have all these like stuff, cartoons. Who doesn't remember the cartoons? That's good stuff right there. The Lost Origin of Superman, Superman's Friends and Foes, Ma and Pa Can't Build for Good Family Values, of course. We love Jonathan and Martha. Oh, Lois, come on. Lois is sobbing up a storm. Lana is the first love, so she's always in a good position. You got Superboy and bad guy Ron Devon. We got Supergirl in her short shorts, having a good time. Yes, the tribute edition, doing a proper tribute here with all the Hall of Shame, Superman's most embarrassing moments. Come on. Why do we got to go there on a tribute edition? Come on, let's keep it clean, please. I hate to say this, Lotta, but you look like a hussy. Oh, and I thought he'd be swept off his feet. Super Lana just doesn't understand Superman. Here's where I show her up. Oh, who doesn't love stuff like that? That's good stuff right there. Yes, more powerful man. Locomotive. There we go. All right, so we're kind of at the end of the tribute edition now, and now we're getting into ads, 90s ads here. Oh, we got a little price guide action here. Looky here. We got Action 1. 100, you could get it for a cool, cheap 125,000. Right. Action 1, what last copy sold for 7 million? It's so quite a discount there, 125,000 back in the 90s. Absolutely ridiculous. With the Superman, let's look at Superman, right? Because the Superman, we just got a recent sale on that. So here we go. Adventures Comics. Oh, we got to go to S. Here we go. So look at this. Superman 1. 55,000. This just sold for 9 million. So again, what sold for 9 million just a couple weeks ago was 55,000 in 1993. So yeah, we all wish we could go back to 1993. Even then, even if we could, I couldn't buy $55,000 book. Oh, look at all this golden age goodness right there, man. That's this is all out of everybody's price range. Oh, yes. I just want to see how much this Hitler Hirohito issue is. This is Superman 17. Okay, and I wanted to see what it was selling for back in for like $50 or something like that. 17 was $750, the war cover. Man, that's a bargain. That is a bargain right there. High grade. 750. Oh, there's the Ali issue. Man, this has it all. This has it all. Right? You got the first crossover there, Spider-Man versus Amazing Spider-Man by Jerry Conway and Ross Andrew. That's in my collection. Superman Takes a Wife by Carrie Bates and Kurt Swan. What? Yes. And we got some Nightfall stuff coming. That's good. And The Importance of Being Superman, a very important letter from Patrick Daniel O'Neill, the editor. And here we go. The Reign of Superman, beginning in Adventures of Superman 500, 501, and all that. So we're going to get right back into the thick of things here. Thank you for walking down memory lane with me. And we're going to get back to our books here. So the funeral stuff ends. We get the Adventures of Superman. This is where we get the four Supermen, the mysterious Supermen. We actually get a card. So this is kind of like comes with this issue in the polybag edition. And it's a really cool card because it's the cover of these like die cut editions that come out. So you have die cut covers that are Superman S's here. Each one has a different kind of S symbol. And at the time when you buy the comic book, you're not entirely sure what you're looking at until you open up the die cover and then you see one of four different Supermen. So the Bloodlines is kind of the card that you got with it. And again, this one comes as a polybagged edition, the white polybag. I have it somewhere. I just don't have it here right now with me. And let's get into the various die cut covers here. I got this one here. This is signed by Jackson Butch Geis back when this book came out. One of 10,000 copies. That's cool. We got the steel edition. So this is the Eradicator cover. This is the steel cover there. Again, die cut, so when you open it up, you see the card images there. That's cool stuff right there. And then we got would you look at that? I am missing the Superboy cover. Well, got to pick that up now. So this is the die cut cover. And then this is the standard cover. Both come with a bonus Men of Tomorrow poster. This is my Dan Jurgens signed with the, I think it's a Dynamic Forces signature there. So one of 10,000. That's cool. That's one you want for your collection right there. We got the Reign of Superman newsstand there. Doomsday's back. What's going on? Doomsday for Doomsday. That's kind of cheesy. This is just a bonus kind of thing right here. I just want to show it off because it's on the back of this Superman 82. It's the foil cover here. Got it signed by Dan Jurgens as well. Back for good. That's kind of getting ahead of ourselves here, but he does come back. We got some really cool, mind you, like the coolest thing to come out of this whole Death of Superman is the Terminator Superman, right? That is like terrifying kind of image here. Um, but yeah, you get this great. These are some of like the best Cyborg Superman covers um, that were that came out during this whole period. So these are definitely ones to just like kind of have if you like Cyborg Superman. Because Cyborg Superman continues to be, and I'm gonna turn up my space heater so I might get a little loud here. But Cyborg Superman continues to be in the sphere of Superman related characters. You know, he's as significant as Doomsday. So these guys keep coming back as like viable characters for today's comic books, and yeah, these are pretty cool things. I mean, again, don't pay more than $1 for these books, please. For the love of collecting, don't do that. But definitely pick them up for $1. That's fun right there. This is the hobby, right? It's not about chasing keys. It's not about like buying, the first appearance of some Silver Age villain and paying tens and thousands of dollars for a first appearance. It's about buying a book like this, reading it, and having it raw in your collection, picking it up for $1. Okay. And the hobby allows for both spectrums. So that's why I love comic book collecting. You can buy a $9 million Superman book, or you could buy $1 Cyborg Superman book where he's holding Old Glory, tattered Old Glory. That's just some good stuff right there, man. Look at that. Look at this. That's just creepy as all get go right there. Good stuff from the 90s. All right, we got some more stuff, and then we're gonna go to bed because I'm old and tired. All right, we got some Supergirl action there. We got who's this? Somebody watches the Superman. Are we working towards some kind of climax here? Yes, we are. We're working toward. Dun, 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 dun. Now Spider-Man got a black suit, so DC said, you know what, we got to put our guy in a black suit too. This is peak '90s stuff, right? We have DC just kind of like anything Marvel can do, we can do better, and we put Superman in a black suit, and it's really I don't know. I think it's kind of cool. He does eventually go back to the classic suit, though. And there you go. That is it. My Death, Reign, and Return collection. As you can see, there are a lot of holes in my collection, but I've never been in a rush to collect these. They're literally in like bargain bin in any given comic book shop. You could probably just, if you're dedicated to filling in a run, just find a good quarter bin. These books will be there. If they're selling for $1, you could probably talk the guy down to like 50 cents a book. I'm sure they're just looking to like, okay, yeah, take all my 90 Superman stuff off my hands, please. Because for so long, Superman's just been collecting fodder for the hobby for so long, and I just was sick of that. I'm sick of it. And he deserves more respect. He deserves your damn respect. If you can't give Superman your damn respect, then get out of the hobby, please, because he's the person. He's the reason why you collect comic books. Just don't ever forget that. Okay, there's a nexus here, a time nexus, and if Superman was never the popular comic book pop culture icon he was in the 30s and 40s, then you would never have your freaking Hulk and Wolverine and all the other, like, subsequent progeny of Superman. You'd never have it. So uh, pay respect where respect is due. Okay. All right. Well, that's enough of an old man ranting time. If you like this video, just give it a like. Give me the, pop in from time to time. Ron, I imagine you like dozed off. You probably were listening and then just dozed off. So thanks for joining, Ron. All the other people that watch this video or the rerun, leave me a comment, please. At least let me know. Hey, man, I watched your video. I agree. I disagree. I think your content sucks. Just say something. Let me know. Let me know you watched it, and we'll see you in the next one. Okay, guys. Peace out.